let's talk about flights don't matter, okay? Just because, this is
Sure.
A message I've been preaching for the longest time. And that that was really the catalyst for me for our series, the Is This Disc Right For You? I remember way back in the day, of course not that long ago, but it is a while back, where people were just talking about, when we on the Disc Golf Answer Man show here, that they were thinking, like, we want to see what Bobby thinks, right? I didn't think that when we first started, it was Eric was going to give, as a pro, world champion, he was going to give the advice, and he was going to talk about disc. I was going to be the guy that did all the back end work. I asked the questions. I was the goofy guy that, was stumbling over his words, all that.
Yeah.
But then people would start asking how it threw for me, and I thought, wow, people, the casual guy, it makes sense. They can't throw a disc like a pro can. And so how do we just not talk about that? How do we demonstrate that? And how do we do a comparison? So that's what that came about, was people wanted to see how it threw for me, or at the time Anthony or other people that we recruit in for the videos. And then it was always a thing of like, do you see now that flights don't matter as much as you think they do, because these discs will fly differently? What in your mind of doing that series, obviously the big thing is that flights don't matter, but what are maybe some other things that you've discovered in doing that series that is very much I don't know if the misinformation is the right word, but maybe a misunderstanding of flight number? What are some of the bigger ones that come to your mind when doing that series?
That's a great question. Like when you hear people talk about discs, or when you hear two people, let's say they're talking about, like an Evader style disc, like, 02, 02.5, something like that. They're often using those flight numbers to talk about a disc as if it flies the same for both of them.
Right.
They're referring to like, well, I use it this way, or, I need a T-Bird type disc, I need an Evader type disc, I need something like in this space. But how that disc flies for me, for you, for anyone that watches our videos, for the much younger, faster throwers that we use in our videos than me, is completely different. And so flight numbers, they tell you something, right? They tell you how the disc was intended to fly, but then you change the plastic, then you change the weight, then you change the thrower, and very quickly it becomes a totally different disc for different people. So, for example, last week our video was on Clash Discs. It was a collaboration with Northeast Women's Disc Golf, who we met at the Disc East Expo. And they got together 6 of their members of varying skill levels, FA4 to FPO, and several divisions in between, and through the Clash Discs Soda. It's a straight, neutrally rated fairway driver, -2.2. But what does that mean to 5 or 6 different people? Well, for an FA4 thrower, -2.2 actually flies kind of like 0.2. That was her sort of evader slot, reliable, consistent fade. By the time you get to FPO, or even some of the FA2 throwers, you have a big turnover bomber disc that's flying, 200 feet farther and 300 feet farther right. So it's a completely different disc. And I think, like, if there's anything, I end a lot of the Flight Numbers Don't Matter videos by saying you don't know a disc till you throw it. And I think there's so many great examples of that when it comes to, everybody loves an Innova Destroyer, right? Well, throw a Destroyer in every single different plastic. Or in this case, another video we're working on soon, these 3 stacks over here, I don't know if everybody can see all of them, but we've got 8 Mako 3s from Innova, 7 Beasts, and 6 Rhinos. Each of those is a different plastic. And you better believe they don't fly the same, but they all have the same flight numbers. So really, if there's anything that I could do, any like magic wand that I could wave, it would be that manufacturers figure out a way to give us a little more information. Give us a little more like, all right, let's say, let's put it, I'll try and, pardon me on this Dynamic Discs channel, I'll try and stay inside your terminology. How different should I expect a disc in lucid plastic to fly versus Fusion versus Supreme, right? And if flight numbers is the way to communicate that, great. Like, let's figure out how to incorporate that. MVP does that with some of their plastics. Fission has a different flight number typically than their other premium plastics. So does Electron. I don't know that I always agree with how they change the flight number, because a lot of Fission discs seem to start out more overstable, but they beat in faster. So that ends up being correct. But how does it fly like right off the shelf? So I think that's where like a lot of the essence of that comes from. It's just, I think we're also a shop, right? Like, I sell discs, right. And if somebody walks up and says, "Oh, I need another Firebird," I'm like, "Do you? Where's your old Firebird? Show me." And they pull a beat up DX Firebird out of their bag. I'm like, "No, you don't. You need something totally different."
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember, I've talked about this situation before where I was out traveling with the RVs a long time ago, and people would come up and ask, about certain discs. And I remember them asking about a disc, and I was like, "Well, what do you throw now for your distance driver?" And I don't remember exactly what he said, but he told me, and I thought, well, this disc ain't going to be right for you. And he goes, "Well, what are the numbers?" And I showed him, and he goes, "Yeah, that's what I want." I was like, "You probably want something more like this other one." And it was a slower disc. And he just would not, he just like, "No, and he just kind of stopped listening to me and moved over to the high-speed drivers. And I thought, I get it, but it's, and I hate to use the word ignorance, but it is kind of ignorance. They don't understand. They just think that they got to have that high-speed driver. And, It's not like, I don't think you need to understand the numbers as a science, but you just can't, it's the same sentiment you say. I wanted to just say, dude, just throw it real quick. I promise it's going to be much better for you for what you're looking for. So
it's tough. Like, do you give people what they want or what they need? Right.
Right.
I've had issues with this for years. One of my first jobs, I worked retail at like Office Max, and we sold these huge printers, right? Or, well, we sold a bunch of different printers, and had a guy come in, and he's looking at the most expensive, humongous, multifunction 4-in-1. It's like $400, and he's kind of checking it out. And I walk over, I'm like, "Hey man, how's it going? What are you looking for? How can I help?" And he explains that he wants something portable. He only needs to print in black and white, and he wants to put it in his trunk. He's going to hook it up to his car and print stuff while he's out on the road. I'm like, "Sweet, you do not need that gigantic printer. You need this little teeny tiny $180 portable black and white printer." And my manager's like, "Guy was going to buy the $400 one.
Right.
What are you doing, man?" I'm like, "Well, he doesn't need it. He doesn't need it." So there's a lot of that comes from, I just don't like, I don't want that guy's going to come back and he's going to be pissed and be like, "Why'd you sell me this giant thing? I can't even fit it in my trunk. It's too tall." Like, that would suck. I don't want that for anybody.
Yeah, there's so many different rabbit holes. I remember people would say that, and I guess I don't understand I don't understand it enough, but people would say that Westside Discs numbers were terrible. They aren't right. And I'm like, well, not right for who? For you? I don't. So my
Which
thing
discs?
is,
tell those people to get in the comments. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I just don't. I never understood that. People were saying, well, maybe because West Side's in Finland, the elevation's different, and the things are different over there. That I'm like, that's not. And then even
sea level, man.
And then even the understanding of plastics. I was watching your episode where you did a breakdown of a lot of different brands and kind of the house of discs and the different brands, and then Gateway and the different. By the way, I didn't know Gateway had that many different brands. I knew they had a lot, but I didn't know all those. So I learned a lot. So thank you for that video.
Yeah, sure.
But even I've seen on other podcasts, I think it was the Funzy podcast, where they went over some survey about plastics, and people were actually picking like Westside Disc plastic is better than Latitude 64 plastic. Within those brands, they are the same, but it's a matter of I don't want to call it loyalty, but a matter of perception that the people don't understand. They feel it. They're like, "Well, this is great plastic. I'm going to rate this higher than Latitude's plastic." It's the same plastic. It's the same plastic.
Like in this day and age with misinformation and social media and all this, like, I think we see it even more. A saying that we used to say in customer service stuff at Apple, which is perception is reality. Like, people will believe what they want to believe. So if they perceive it's better, I guess it's better.
Yeah. So my biggest thing to, I guess, combat that, or at least to help people get understanding, is kind of what you're doing, is put more information out there so people will learn more. My approach is very much I'm the casual guy that I'm not that too much into the technical, into the weeds of it. I just like going out and throwing, have a good time, having fun here at work. And so that's kind of the approach I take.